something very small that I'm very happy to be now ticking off the list of things that get done is the Speedo drive. So this is the unit out of a Turbo 350. Obviously this goes into the side of the case, and this is what reads the Speedo as it spins. And with whatever car my transmission came out of, it obviously has a screw-on cable like this, and that usually goes to the back of your Speedo. But obviously the VN is an electric Speedo. So what you can do is pull this out, just the unit itself with no cable on it obviously. And this is the unit from a Turbo 700, so V8 VN and stuff like that. So as you can see, very different and like twice the size. But if you just screw off the unit, get rid of that, then this screws straight on to the Turbo 350 unit as the cable would, and you plug this back into the factory plug that's in the tunnel under the car, and Bob's your auntie, you've got a Speedo. Now these are the two fittings that made my life horrendous 2 weeks ago trying to get a video out. Now I'm not sure if you could have just used normal fittings, but these are power steering specific. So I wanted to use the right thing. I don't want to be dealing with leaks or anything like that. So it was better to just wait for the right part to come. So this is all that we're using to do the lines for the Astra power steering pump. So we're going to use this factory one for the low pressure with some rubber braid. And for the high pressure, we've got a fitting on the pump, a fitting on the rack, and a fitting on each end of the hose, which are here, also on rubber braid. So there's not much to it, just to do the lines. I'll quickly get onto those and show you the finished product. Also at the start of this video, I'm sure I showed how I'm combining the Turbo 700 and Turbo 350 Speedo setup. And straight after I filmed that, I managed to break all 3 wires coming out of this Speedo sender. Thankfully, I have a lot of local wreckers, specifically Commodore ones, and managed to get another one with some really good wiring. So I'm going to give this a good clean and put this all together and put it in for the final time. Unfortunately though, this first one was actually borrowed, so I have to replace this one and buy one for myself. So if anyone has another Turbo 700 one, hit me up and I will take it, as I need to replace my mate's one that I broke. And while I'm under the car here, I thought I may as well show you. So this is the Speedo sender on the Turbo 350 unit. So that's what it looks like, all done and dusted. Hopefully this Speedo works. So here you can see I've had to drop the rack down, as when you put the 90-degree fitting on, it hits this header tube up the top here. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I've circled it there in white where I need to bash it with a hammer just to get the 90-degree fitting on there. This is a bit of a better look. Power steering stuff finally 100% done. So I will show you exactly what the setup is. So obviously the pump, low fabrications bracket, we've got a -6 power steering fitting out the side of the pump with a -6 45 into some rubber braid. Got some push-on rubber braid here just with a clamp on the low pressure. Now these run down here between the K-frame and the sway bar. Up here into this factory bracket, which usually holds some wiring, I think, on a factory LS1. Down here, and as you can see, this is going to be tough to see, but that one there is a factory 90-degree hard line with the push-on rubber braid for low pressure. The top one has the exact same fitting that the pump has, -6 with a -6 90 on it, and that is it. Very, very simple, very neatly run. You cannot see any of this from the engine bay. So no lines, nothing from here, you can't see anything. Now as for wiring, it's actually pretty simple. I maybe could have figured it out on my own, but I did leave it to Marcus as he knows exactly what he's doing, but I will very simply explain it. So the Astra pump has 5 wires coming off it. Obviously one ground, one power to the battery. There's 2 triggers that you twist together, and then there's one brown wire here that's just taped up that does absolutely nothing. So obviously run down here, down the front, up under the headlight, have an 80 amp fuse. The fuse is here. And the 2 wires that you've twisted together to ignition. So when you turn the ignition on, even if the car's not running, you can have power steering. Now, if you twist them together, there is about a 10-second delay. You can delay one of the wires by 1 second, and then it's instant. Now, it didn't really bother me because I don't think ever in my life have I turned a car on and then driven instantly. So waiting 10 seconds for the power steering to kick on is no problem at all. So here we have our very expensive power steering fluid for the Astra pump. So I'm going to fill this up for the first time. Just imagine if this didn't get in the space there. Oh my god, I'll be so pissed. I'll start this up so you can hear it. Sounds like a jet engine starting.
To infinity and beyond!
Sounds like it's gonna blow up. Everyone seems to really like videos where I do price breakdowns on things that I've done to the car, so I thought I would do the same thing for the Astra pump for anyone that's interested. I've kept track of what this has cost me here, so I will let you guys know. So the Astra pump itself was 150 bucks with wiring, bracket, everything like that. The V6 idler pulley that you have to put for the ribbed belt was $33.60 from Burson's. The power steering fluid, which is actually very specific for this pump, is this one here that you can get from Burson's. You'll need 2 bottles of this, and it is not cheap. These are $40 a bottle, so don't spill any. New belt for the shorter routing was $35 from Burson's. The Lowe's Fab bracket to hold the pump to the side of the car was $100 delivered, powder coated, everything like that. The little box of washers was $6. The braided hose is $30 a meter, and I managed to do it with where I mounted it for 2 meters, so that was 60 bucks. The Aeroflow hose separators to sort of make everything look nice was $18 a pair. The 80 amp fuse holder that you're gonna have to wire in for the pump itself, $15. I just had a quick look on eBay. The Dash 690 and the Dash 645 off the pump were 25 bucks a piece. Now, give or take a few dollars, these can change depending where you get them from. And last but not least were these fittings that took forever to come. So for anyone wondering, these are the fittings you need. They're both the same, so one off the pump itself and one off the rack. So here's the part number for the Raceworks ones, and these were $18 each. Now all up, give or take, you might be able to do it cheaper if you run the pump somewhere else so the lines are shorter, you don't use separators, or you don't use screw-on fittings. You can use push-on hose, but give or take, it's around, this one cost me $550. So if you're looking for any other part numbers, like for the belt and for the pulley and stuff like that, they're in the previous video on the pump. I'm sorry I didn't put all this stuff together. Again, I apologize. These are the things that stuffed up my video. But anyway, so that's the end of the power steering stuff. Now, as for the high pressure fitting on the rack itself, oh, what a nightmare. But it was actually just a lot of stuffing around. I ended up having to drop the whole rack down out of the car. You can't get the 90-degree fitting, well, with these headers anyway, so it may be different with other people's cars. Yeah, with these headers, I couldn't get the 90-degree fitting onto the Dash 6 on the rack. It was too tall and hit the headers. I tried knocking in that tube itself from under the car, but there was just no room, and even with the rack dropped, you couldn't get the right angle. Even with a 1/2-inch extension up in there, you would hit it and it would sort of just deflect off the tube because it just wasn't on the right angle. I eventually got it knocked just that little bit that I could put the fitting on, put the rack back in, and I could get my hand in there and slip the 90-degree fitting on just, and it clears by about 2 or 3 mil to the header. So there shouldn't be any problems with that. It's no different to how the factory hardlines ran before, so I don't see any problem with that at all. So it did get there in the end with that fitting. So be prepared if you're doing the Astra pump with a 90 fitting off the rack. It's a bit of hell depending on what headers you got. Alright, testing for crank. Nah.
Serious?
Nah, nothing.
Are you serious?
Again? Hang on. Nah. Nah, nothing.
Fuck off. Are you actually for real? Are you for real? Are you for real?
It's got crank.
It does?
It's got crank.
Alright,
Reverse lights on. Go next one up. Off. On. So they go on when you got it in park. So you got the park neutral switch and the reverse light switch around the wrong way. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Yep, reverse. Off. Yep. Yep. Yep, reverse. Yep, gone. Perfect. As for wiring, that is 99.9% complete as well. Oh my god, thank god. What a long process the wiring has been. I have no idea when it comes to wiring, so I just assumed it's a very simple untape everything, tape it up really nice and plug everything back into where it came from, but it was very far from that. Marcus redid a whole new alternator loom as that was just run really shit, and how they had it wired into the fuse box was all junk. So that was all redone, and you can't even see it. So a new loom all under here, all heat shielded. This is all retaped and run really nicely down tight in here. All the back's all done, the front's all hidden, thank god. Most of this stuff could be hidden, so most of this stuff runs behind the catch can, and you can see very little of it. This is all done and run under there. All this was new and rerouted. This was all really messy in this corner, so Marcus redid all that. And also, I managed to get him to do, while he was here, we now have our little relays on here that click on and off. So one is for your reverse lights, and the other one is the neutral safety lockout, so that you can't start the car while it's in drive or anything like that. So that switches on only when it's in neutral or park, and it'll start. Any other spot on the shifter, the car won't crank, which is a good safety thing. It doesn't really matter. Some people might not want to wire that in, but if it's there, then why not? So now the 0.1% that still needs to be done is just you have to get these relays exactly spot on where they sit on the shifter for them to switch on. These just need a little bit of adjustment to get them perfect, and apart from that, it's all done. All this stuff can all go back on. Put the kick panel back on, and that's it for wiring. I'm so happy wiring is done. Oh my god. And pretty much I can put oil, power steering fluid, trans fluid in this thing. I got to do up the tail shaft, I better not forget that, and we can crank it. So in the next very near future, we're going to crank this car for the first time and see if it starts. So stay tuned for that. So if you remember, one of my dash 10 fittings for my rocker covers hit the plug on the 6-litre coils. Now to combat that, what I'm looking at doing is going back to LS1 coils. As you can see, they sit a lot lower, and I've sat these on, and my dash 10 fitting clears these coils. Now while I'm at it, I may as well clean it up. I thought I will chop up these brackets a bit to make them a lot nicer, but I found a company that does billet coil brackets. So these came in today, so I'm going to put these on, and once the coils are on, you probably won't see much of this at all. And that's the finished product, much neater. And now this clears, as the LS2 coils have a plug sticking straight up that was right in front of it. And you couldn't pivot this anymore as it went straight into the rail. And just to show a before and after with the coils, so these are the standard 6-litre ones with a standard bracket. LS1 with the aftermarket bracket. So just to go on one of my usual Australia Post rants, I had two things come on the same day. Now, one thing that I ordered was this, which is to loop the heater hoses on the side of the water pump on the LSs, right here. Now, I was hoping there was a better looking solution to addressing the issue there by not running a heater. Now, a lot of people block them, but a lot of people say don't block them because you need water flow, it can cause overheating. So I wanted to keep the water flow going, and there's just no other way to do it, unfortunately. So you have to run one of these, which doesn't look that great, but it's just what you got to do. If anyone else has another way to do it, I would love to hear about it, because I don't really like this. I would love to have tapped these and done bungs in there so they were just blocked, but yeah, as I said, you need water flow. So that was one thing that came. The next thing that came was a brand new GoPro 10. So I will switch to this camera after this clip, so hopefully you can tell the difference. But I ordered this from New South Wales and it took almost 3 weeks to come. I ordered this from the US on a Friday and I got it the following Tuesday. So 3 working days. How is Australia Post so useless? And this is the GoPro 10. So hopefully you can tell the difference, because this was not cheap. So I hope it's a bit of an upgrade. It's very weird seeing yourself in the screen here on the front now. So I'm gonna get on to putting this on, so that's done, because then I can actually fill it with coolant. I also grabbed today another Dash 10 fitting, weld on, as this just isn't going to work, this fitting down here, even with the LS1 coils. It still hits the fuel rail, so I'm going to have to weld another fitting on, either right at the back or right at the front, and I'm going to cap that one that's already there with one of these caps. So it's already welded on, so I may as well leave it there. You never know, you might need something down the future, so I'll just cap it with one of these. And I got some Dash 10 hose to do the other catch can line, so we'll see what that looks like. So let's get on to doing something. So now with this side coils off, you can see where this fitting is. The coils used to sit here, and the Dash 1090 is too tall and hits the rail, as you previously saw. So what I'm going to do is probably have another one welded back here with a 90, and I'll run around the back and with that one over there to the catch can. Now there's no point cutting this one off and welding it up. May as well just cap it with one of these caps that Aeroflow do for their own fittings, because you never know, you might need it later. So that's now capped, that's nice and neat. You probably won't even notice it's there. And just to finish off this week's video, guys, I have done one side catch can line. So I just got a Dash 1090 on this end and a Dash 10 125 on this end. Cut to length, we'll see how good this fits up with my eye measurements. There we go, perfect. Runs along here, sort of hides the loom a little bit, straight across the rock cover and right to the back. Dash 10 stuff looks so good just because of how big it is, but bigger with fittings means more expensive. Now I have to suggest, if you're doing a build or something like I just did, like a rework of this car where I did a shitload of fittings, please take my advice and go buy these. So a set of fixed wrenches, I think they're Dash like 2 up to Dash 12, and one of these adjustable Aeroflow wrenches. I wish I bought these at the start. I've just borrowed these from someone at the end to do a couple of things, and oh my god, does it make life easier. They are very expensive, but so worth it. So trust me, go buy them if you're doing a lot of fittings. I'm surprised people aren't complaining yet that I'm really dragging out this first start of this car, but it is very hard. You know, now that lockdowns are over, back to work full time, got stuff to do on the weekends, you know, house stuff like that. So I'm getting there slowly, so be patient. In the next few episodes, we will start this car. So see you guys next week.